Hello everyone, welcome to SwitchUp. We've got another review for you today, this time of WarioWare Get It Together. This review was written for us by a good friend of the channel, Dave Morrish. Dave has his own channel, SavedX Gaming. Please do check it out, I'll put a link to it in the top pinned comment. WarioWare Get It Together is a zany party game available on the Nintendo Switch. It is the 10th release in this franchise, although it's also the first full console game in the series since Smooth Moves back on the Wii. It's a franchise that, although not massive, still has a good following and now has the potential to expand that with the bigger audience on the Switch. Is this a game that really gets it together, or should we show Wario where the door is? Thank you to Nintendo for the review code, and now let's find out.
Alright, as a super duper special treat for you.
Just before we start, I'm going to say that the multiplayer footage does show some of the unlockable characters. I won't mention how they control or anything like that, but just consider this a mild spoiler warning. The gameplay of the WarioWare franchise as a whole involves microgames, tiny, simple and quick to accomplish tasks that generally have a 3 to 5 second timer. In the original Game Boy Advance and GameCube releases, these were performed with just simple stick and button inputs, but later games expanded to use as many gimmicky control schemes as possible, such as the DS touchscreen, motion controls on the Wii and the gamepad of the Wii U. They have avoided the temptation of utilising the Switch's motion controls or touchscreen and brought it back to its simple button controlled route. It also has a heavy emphasis on local multiplayer that was found on the GameCube. But that's not to say that this game does nothing new. The story of this one involves Wario and friends getting sucked into the game itself and needing to take out the bugs causing the damage. WarioWare has always had a big cast of interesting characters who mostly served as the host for their variety of microgames, but in this instance, however, they are fully playable characters. This adds a new layer to how a WarioWare game is played without needing a gimmicky control scheme. Your characters are placed over top the microgames and you need to move them around to complete the task set to you. They all control in their own unique way. Wario, for example, can move freely with his jetpack, and pressing A will do a horizontal shoulder charge. Some, like Ashley for example, also fly freely, but then others, like Cricket, stay on the ground and can jump really high. 9V is always moving back and forth on his skateboard, and pressing A shoots his yo-yo upwards. As you play through the story mode, you'll unlock characters constantly, and some of their control schemes get a bit more complicated. As your roster fills, you can choose which characters you want to use on a run of the microgames, so part of the challenge is completely up to you. Every character controls with the same buttons, but the difference is what they can do changes how you play a microgame. If a game requires you to escape an area, the flying characters will have an easier time of it, but characters like 9V who can't ascend on their own will need to use the rings placed for them to latch onto, and these rings will only appear if there is a character who requires them in the game. In a sense, this makes the difficulty of the game completely up to you. You can opt for characters that can move more freely for an easier game, or challenge yourself with the more awkward ones. The character you are using will also change in a random order between microgames to keep things interesting. There is the option for co-op as well. Having a second player means you'll have two characters on the screen, which can be both a help and a hindrance at the same time. You will really need to communicate with your partner, as the microgames do alter somewhat in how much you need to do in them, and when they get faster as you play, it can become a lot more manic, but also much more fun. As well as this more cooperative multiplayer angle, there is also a competitive multiplayer option with several different modes. One of them tasks you with completing a microgame together, but the point goes to whoever contributed the most. A favourite of ours from the GameCube version returns, where one of you has to complete a microgame whilst the other pumps up a balloon. When you win the microgame, you swap over. Whoever is playing a microgame when the balloon bursts loses. This is both fun and quite tense, and before, pumping up the balloon was done simply by pressing A, but now it takes your character's moveset into account, which keeps you on your toes. The selection of multiplayer games here are a lot of fun. The general WarioWare gameplay is all present and correct, with that familiarity of fast-paced microgame mayhem, but also presented to us is a brand new way in actually controlling the characters, and this adds extra depth to the series and keeps things interesting, both in solo and co-op. Gameplay scores 18 out of 20. Controls on the other hand are very simple, just the analog stick and one button is used for every character, but the fact you will be constantly adopting a new control scheme every few seconds as you use these different characters keeps things fresh. controls also score 18 out of 20. It's really hard to talk about the presentation of these games as it is constantly throwing new things at you with a range of styles that will keep you part amused and part confused. You'll see a mix of art styles in the micro games, some of them with simple 2D sketchy drawings, some with 3D models, and when playing through the story mode, each character's campaign comes with a theme. One may be nature, one is sci-fi, and the micro games all represent these themes mostly through what they display rather than the tasks that you are set. The most interesting, as always, is 9V, whose micro games are all references to other Nintendo properties, some of them being the 8-bit styles of the NES, while some of them represent newer titles such as Luigi's Mansion or Breath of the Wild. The animations on these games really make them stand out as well. A simple task of helping a polar bear punch an ice block results in him gaining a new golden toilet, for example. Stuff like this adds a lot of character to the micro games, and although it may feel quite random, it is always the style that this series has been known for, and this one pulls it off perfectly. The characters themselves all have their usual 2D models and use bold colours with a thick outline that helps you to make them out against the backdrop of the micro game. The game is partially voice acted, and it is a shame that Wario only speaks in short sentences after he was fully voice acted in WarioWare Gold, but the rest of the cast helped to bring a lot of charm and personality to the game. The music also definitely helps to bring the zany vibe that the game is going for, and you'll be hearing a range of different sound bites one after the other. Music in between microgames also does a good job of getting you invested in the action, and as it speeds up, it portrays that sense of urgency that the game as a whole is going for. Overall, the presentation of this game represents the usual style of WarioWare in an effective way, keeping that same madness that the series is well known for, and visuals score 18 out of 20. Audio taps into this madcap feeling very well too, but a few more lines of dialogue for Wario in particular would have been nice. It scores 17 out of 20. WarioWare Get It Together costs £39.99 and regional equivalents are on your screen now. This is a slightly lower price than Nintendo usually ask for their games, and bear in mind that the physical version of this can be found for cheaper. I grabbed my copy on launch day for just under £34. On top of this, there is a demo available on the eShop. It contains over 200 micro games, and although the story mode can be beaten in just a few hours, there is a post game. Completing it will result in you having unlocked all 20 characters, as well as the all mixed up challenges, which bring all of the micro games together and doesn't just stick to a single theme. In playing through the challenges, you gain currency, and this can be spent on random objects you can buy or win out of the Emporium. Giving these presents to characters will give them XP, and leveling them up will unlock character art as well as colours and costumes to customise them. The Wario Cup is the game's online mode in which you have a weekly challenge to complete and earn a high rank against people across the globe. It is a shame the online doesn't stretch to a competitive multiplayer or co-op aspect, as this would have added some longevity to the game. Although the story mode isn't particularly long, WarioWare to me has always been a high score game, and the replayability comes from retrying the different segments and getting through as many microgames as you can before losing all of your lives. The local multiplayer is a lot of fun as well, and while solo players may not get the full benefit from all of the modes, I did spend a lot more time in solo mode than I would have initially expected and thoroughly enjoyed it. Value gets 17 out of 20. To conclude, WarioWare Get It Together has brought the familiar, random and manic WarioWare series back with a new twist that throws a real spanner in the works and creates a lot more depth without feeling too gimmicky. This new game is certainly not for everyone, but fans of the series will find a lot to love here, and newcomers, provided they are on board with the zany premise, could find an experience that is very unique and addictive. The mechanic of different characters provides several ways of taking on each microgame, keeping things fresher for longer, and even when you have seen everything, the high score aspect is as compelling as ever. If they could add proper online at some point in the future, then this could be the perfect WarioWare game. But as a fun, local party game and an addictive high score game, this new addition really does deliver. WarioWare Get It Together gets a SwitchUp score of 88%. Thank you everybody for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. Another thank you to Dave for writing this one for us, and as I said, please do check out his channel, a link to it is in the top pinned comment. Thank you to our Patreons as always for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and as always, happy gaming.